Okay, awesome. We're live, Steve. Okay,
Nice.
what's up, everybody? Hope everyone's having an amazing Tuesday as we're recording this. Hope everyone's doing well. It's Christmas week, holiday week. I'm really excited to dive into this topic today. Um, we're going to be diving into the R&D tax credit here and ways that you can leverage that with your clients to improve to provide more value for your clients, improve retention with clients, and improve client satisfaction. So I'm really excited to have you on here, Steve. How are you doing? This is Steve Wright.
Good, good. Hi. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Charlie. Appreciate it.
Good to have you on, Steve. And you're down here in San Diego as well, right? With me.
Yeah, yeah. It's weird. I just saw Christmas Day is going to be 81 degrees here in San Diego.
Oh, that's crazy. I saw that it's supposed to warm up, so that's
Yeah,
awesome. Well,
yeah.
before we just dive right in, I'm going to pull up the live stream. Yeah, because we're streaming here. And just if you guys, let me mute this. If you guys have any questions at all, if you're watching this live, drop a hashtag live, by the way, so that way we get more engagement on here. Say hi. And if you have any questions as we go through this, let us know. We can answer any questions, and I'll keep an eye in here as we go. So I think without further ado, Steve, do you kind of want to just dive into it?
Yeah, yeah. And I think, it's not uncommon for CPAs and accountants to not know much about the R&D, just like my clients do. I always start every phone call with a lead or a referral. I ask the owner of the company, how much do you know? Have you ever even heard about the R&D? And about 98% of them said no. And in fact, I was just on a call yesterday with a architect firm, and he wanted a CPA on, and his CPA didn't know anything about it. And I think that's really strategically placed by the IRS, is they don't make it easy for anybody to know or find out about the R&D. And there's a circular 230 that the IRS has that really kind of handcuffs CPAs from doing this for their own clients. It says in the circular 230, if you're the CPA that does the work, the taxes for this client, you can charge a contingency fee for it. And it takes us about 40 hours just to do one study. So they really kind of handcuff the small business owner, small CPA to do it. Large firms, they don't care. Facebook, Amazon, they have a whole wing of a building. They don't care about Circular 230. They got CPAs on staff, and they're taking advantage of every single penny. So this is something that allows us to help the small business owner that they did not have access to prior. And I think that the easiest way to kind of explain this is the R&D tax credit is a stimulus. It's just like, the way I compare it is, it's just like last year's $2.2 trillion stimulus that most companies took advantage of, the PPP loans or the ERTC credits, right? This is the exact same thing. The only difference is it's been around since 1981. It was Ronald Reagan's and Congress at the time's stimulus designed to keep jobs in America. At the time, manufacturing was leaving at a hemorrhaging rate, going to third world countries for cheaper labor. So they tried to stop the bleeding. They had a lot of success with it. They kept kicking it down the road till in 2015, Obama made it permanent. Over that time, they had expanded on the definition of the R&D to really include just about every industry out there other than restaurants and retail. So the definition of R&D is you have to have a creative element to what you do, or a customized solution to each endeavor. They'll also reward you for innovation. And it doesn't mean you have to invent the innovation. It just means that you're willing to take the financial risk to improve the process. So a great example is anybody in construction, architects, engineers, they almost all use CAD software. None of them have invented CAD software, but the IRS will reward you for taking that financial risk to improve the process of creating and designing plans for buildings, homes, whatever. And then the reason restaurants and retail, there's nothing creative about, if you buy a box of shoes, you mark them up, you sell them, there's nothing creative to it, right? So unfortunately, those industries do not. My favorite industries that I actually market to exclusively is construction, manufacturing, obviously, architects, engineers, and subcontractors. HVACs are fantastic. Electricians, plumbers, they're all great candidates.
That's really insightful, because I think those that are even aware of the R&D tax credit. I think most of us in here watching this have hopefully heard of the R&D tax credit, but maybe a lot of times you just think that it's suited for a SaaS company or someone that's building out software, building out something
Lab
brand
coats and
new.
beakers.
Yeah, exactly, right. And as Steve is sharing, that it's actually open to a plethora of more industries than probably most people think. And I'll say as well, Steve, we met, started talking probably about 6 months ago now, something
Yeah,
like that,
yeah, a
right?
little bit.
And have definitely connected you with some of the clients that we work with, and have been able to help some of our clients.
Yeah.
So maybe you can share maybe a little bit about that too.
Yeah. So in meeting with Charlie and being introduced to his team of CPAs and accountants, in just a short period of time, I've connected with I think 4 of your clients, and to date I've gotten their clients back about $400,000 in recovery in R&D. So you can see we're almost averaging about $100,000 per client. The only reason it's 100,000 to begin with is we're able to go back 3 years. So the first time I talk with a client and help a client is what I call the big bang, because we're gonna do 3 years and it's gonna be a lot of money. But then this bill was made permanent, so in 2023 we're going to do 2022 for these clients as well. So it's continuing on and on and on. But the first year we do 3 years, and then we do every year after that. I think too, we talked about prior, what are the ideal clients for us? Because there is such a thing as too small. You can't get something back that you didn't put into. So understanding who is a good client, who is a good referral for these, that we're not wasting their time, your time, or my time on, is ideally, I started this saying a long time ago, and if you're old enough, you remember 10 and 2 on the wheel of the steering wheel of the car. Yeah, 10 employees and 2 million in revenue typically will generate about $25,000 to $35,000 in refunds per year. Okay, and it doesn't mean, oh, I got a client that has eight employees, I better not send it over. That's okay, that's all right. But when we're pushing down to 5, because typically if you get 5, they're only doing $1 million. Now you've really, cut it down. I mean, you could have a guy that does 5 employees but does $10 million. That usually doesn't equate, because it's hard for a company that's doing that much revenue to run on only 5 employees. But if that's the case, it'd still be worthwhile taking a look at. I just use 10 and 2 as a good average of, if you have 10 and 2, it'll usually equal about $100,000 in refunds for the first time around.
We did get a question come in, by the way, even though I lose it. Robin asked, hi Robin. She asked, and I don't know if we should do this at the end, but I'll ask this one. It says, isn't there still open discussion about this credit with the government?
I'm not sure what you mean by open discussion, like whether it's legitimate or not.
Yeah, so this credit's been around for a long time. I know.
Yeah. It's been around for 41 years.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know if we talked too much about that. Did you want to talk about like kind of where this kind of came from?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it at the beginning. This is Reagan's stimulus designed to keep jobs in America with manufacturing. You want a more recent discussion about it, or when it was in the news, was when Trump was elected but not sworn in yet. An HVAC company, I can't remember the name of it right now, Carrier was going to leave and go to Mexico. They were going to take 4,000 employees and go to Mexico. His whole platform was manufacturing. I mean, almost every politician's, platform is we're going to keep manufacturing in the United States because it's the backbone of our country. And he went flying in and said, you cannot do this. Like, I'm not even sworn in yet and you're leaving. It doesn't look good, right? And they asked Carrier, are you taking advantage of the R&D tax credits? And they said, no, they're a publicly traded company. They didn't know about them. And they ended up getting back close to $9 million. And it
Wow.
saved over 1,200 jobs from leaving the United States. So those are recent. And I think there's no discussion, as far as I know, with the IRS for moving, changing, or questioning whether this is real. It is a mandated law. And it's very black and white. Like literally when we are asking for these credits, we're telling the IRS, this client did not ask for these R&D credits. They're entitled to them and they want them. It's very black and white. It's not under interpretation of, did I really do a business meeting in Cancun, last month or not? This is black and white.
Yeah. So I know, I don't know if tax law has moved this fast ever. I mean, since, there's tax laws that are changing rapidly on the fly that people are trying to learn as quick as they can, handling, the credits and all the child, what am I thinking of? The child tax stuff and the tax credits and just things that are moving, like even retroactively changing things. So there's a lot going on. So it's really hard for, it's really hard to keep up and to like look at things like probably the R&D tax credit when it's like with all the stuff in the general compliance area stuff is going on. So it's interesting that it's great that you're, really specialized in this area. How did you, I guess just to kind of, as an aside, like how did you end up getting into the R&D side of things?
That's a great question. And talk about falling into it. I actually used to be a retirement specialist and I was doing a seminar. And one of the people that showed up at the seminar was the owner of Business Incentive Solutions that does the taxes, that does the R&D work. And went there and said, what do you do for a living? And she said, I do R&D tax credits. And I said, wow. I go, you must be busier than a one-armed band. And she goes, I don't have enough help. I can't see enough people to do it because I just don't have enough feet on the street. And we're a marketing group. I'm a marketing group. Like I'm the guy that says, Charlie, meet Business Incentive Solutions. Business Incentive Solutions, meet Charlie, and connect the dots and facilitate the whole process through, right? And so that was a marriage made in heaven. I mean, we've gone like gangbusters. The first year that we partnered with them, we did under $1 million in recovery. The next year we did $2 million. The next year after that, we did 4. And last year we did over $18 million for the year.
Okay.
As a team, as my team, I'm a regional vice president for Business Group Resources.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's good that you brought up, that you brought up like that success. And I know that we're going to cover audit exposure and risk, because I know that's what a lot of people think about that and consider that, as you should. Clarice in here just asked this, or just mentioned this is on the Dirty Dozen list. So I don't know if you're familiar with that, and maybe we can go into like.
Yeah, I think I've heard that before, and it doesn't mean that it's not something that you're entitled to. And I think one of the things that we stand behind is we stand behind our work. We're not a company that says, give us some money, we'll do the R&D and good luck, right? We understand the law. We have a proprietary software. If we're not confident that you're going to get that money, we will send, and I've had my share of no recoveries, that where the company says, you did not have enough expenditures in the R&D to qualify. You did not have enough tax liability to qualify. There are specific reasons and rules and guidelines that we adhere to. We don't stretch the truth. We do a very conservative study. If we find somebody about $100,000, there's probably $110,000 there. And ironically, every single client of ours gets a check from the IRS or the state of California. If you're in California, California has a really good R&D tax rate as well. But they get a check for exactly the dollar that we asked for plus interest. And the only reason, because the IRS is doing their own study based on the work that we sent them, and they would have different numbers. And typically they're going to have a higher number than we have. And they just go, give them what they're asking for before they ask for the entire amount that they're entitled to.
Mm.
You know.
What, I guess I definitely have a few questions for you, but as what was I going to say? The what are you open to sharing? Like, what's your track record been in terms of seeing audits come up as a part of this process?
No, absolutely, 100%. So this is another thing that we hang our hat on. We've been in business for 17 years. We've helped out over 9,000 clients. We haven't had a single one of our clients be audited for the R&D. We've been in audits. I have a manufacturing company that's in an audit right now, but they audited them randomly. 2018 was coming up for the statute of limitations. The IRS said, hey, before 18 goes off the books, we're going to take a look at it. And they had already paid him. And this is a large manufacturer. He got a check for $450,000 for 1 year for 2018. They had already paid him. And they said, we're looking at 15 lines on your taxes and we're going to throw in the R&D. So can you say you'll never be audited? No, who could? The IRS can do whatever they want, but we've never caused an audit. We've never sent in an amendment to somebody's taxes and the IRS went, we're going to audit you because you're asking for this money. That just isn't a reality. They're not upset that people are asking for something that they're entitled to.
Great. Okay. So I appreciate that clarity, because I know there's a lot of worry about, of course, we don't want to see more audits. Like we're busy enough, right, with the workload.
Yeah.
And, that's a stressor, I'm sure, for sure. So let's talk about like the positives on this. So what are the benefits of, a CPA looking into, say they have a few clients at 2 million and 10 employees, right? And what are the benefits there of, starting down the process of looking if the R&D credit?
That's a great question. So one of them is we do have a referral agreement that you will be compensated on for referring a client over if they go through it. The other benefit too is a lot of these, we're not the only company in the United States that does this, but what differentiates us, Business Group Resources, from all the other companies is, one, we do a free initial analysis. We'll take a look under the hood with no obligation at all to see if there's anything there for them or not. And that will only take about an hour's time for them to work with me to answer some questions, fill out a questionnaire, upload taxes, and get a free analysis. But two is we're also the only company out there that only charges half of the fee prior to mailing the docs out, the other half as they get the checks. Everybody else wants the entire amount of our fee and then a handshake goodbye. We've also have zero complaints. We've been in business for 17 years. And you can imagine we're dealing with businesses and taxes and people's personal information. And we have zero complaints. We're an A+ rated member of the Better Business Bureau. That just doesn't happen. You can Google other R&D tax credit companies, and there's a list of companies that do have complaints, that maybe don't do as good a job, or they press the envelope. I think one of the largest accounting firms in the nation that does R&D just got raided in Texas for doing this, but they're also known for pressing the envelope and or unethically doing things. So, I think it's really important to know who you're dealing with, who you're working with, and what you're getting in with.
Yeah. And also, like, of course, you're able to, if you see an opportunity, I know that we're spending a lot of time doing, you spend a lot of time doing the compliance work. The compliance work has to get done. The tax returns have to get out. But when you have if you have an opportunity for a big tax credit, whether it's this or a tax saving strategy or something that can really add a lot of value to your business, to a business, or it's another premium service that you can add on, that improves the relationship, that improves retention, that improves goodwill, that improves referrals. So there's a lot of benefits and a lot of good that can come for that. And maybe that's obvious, but I just want to kind of state that,
Yeah, because we had this conversation about another CPA that I had years ago. She actually she specialized in HVACs, and she sent me over probably about 50 HVAC companies. And one day she called me and she said, this is the best thing that I've ever done for my clients, was introduce them to you. She goes, it's not only I'm helping them out and I'm getting them back a lot of money, but some of them are calling me with referrals of other people. They were talking about what I did and what Steve did to help them get back money that they never knew that they were entitled to. And we're so happy with their service. So it really is a huge value added benefit. And don't be shy to ask for referrals. When I help people out and that they've gotten the money back, it's a great time to say, if you know anybody else that I could help out, my business, I can take on new clients and I would appreciate it.
Absolutely. I think a big, probably missing some referrals by not asking or putting it somewhere in our fulfillment process that, asking for referrals. So I think that's great insight.
It's a great time to ask for referrals. It's not a great time when you say, okay, here's your taxes this year, you owe $20,000. Do you have anybody you can refer me to? But when you say, hey, I understand Steve just helped you out and you're going to get a considerable amount of money, possibly six figures back. Do you know anybody else that I could help out and introduce to Steve? That's a great opportunity to ask. Do the ask.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can you share a little bit about what the process, maybe from a high level start to finish, what the process would look like if someone in the audience or someone that's watching this has that 10 and 2?
Yeah. So I kind of hit on the 10 and 2 part, but the ideal client that there's like three main arteries to the R&D that you have to say yes to. One is you have to have that customized solution to each endeavor, right? Creative element. Excuse me. And the next one is you have to have employees on payroll. Remember, I said this is a stimulus designed to keep jobs in America. So there has to be 10 W-2 employees on payroll, and then they have to have paid tax. If it's a company that does not pay any tax, you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. So once you know that what your clients have and what they're paying in tax, once and if they paid at least $20,000 in taxes, we typically get about half of what they paid back. So it'll be worthwhile after 20 grand. The process is very simple. It's literally an intro call from me, which takes about maybe 15 minutes tops to pre-qualify them and explain the process and how and why they may be a good candidate for this. And then the next step is I have an NDA / discovery form for them to fill out along with me. The NDA says we don't use any of your personal information for anything other than seeing if there's any credits there for you or not. And then the questionnaire is, tell us about your business. You're a general contractor, you build custom homes, you have 12 employees, you do about 4 million in revenue a year, et cetera. And then at the end of that, the IRS has what's called a 4-part test. And that is the qualifying events that will qualify a client to get the R&D as far as their daily endeavors. What is their activity, right? So I help them fill that out, and then we have a 43 question questionnaire to dig deep and find what is the activities specifically that this client does on a daily basis that will qualify for the R&D. That takes about a half hour on the phone to fill out. Once they fill that out and send it back to me, I have my office send them a secure link to upload their taxes. However long it takes them to drag and drop their last 3 years of taxes into the link, that's it, they're done. That's why I said a little earlier, it takes about an hour of their time altogether, and we'll do a free look. It takes us about 2 weeks to do the initial analysis. When we're done, I get back with the client, I go over the results, of what they found, we do 1 year. We'll just do 1 year. We'll pick 1 year out of the 3 that we feel gives us the best opportunity to find anything there for them. And we'll do a full deep dive on that 1 year. Then if they want us to do the work, they sign the contract. Our fee is, and I kind of hit on this earlier, that we only ask for half, but our fee is 33% of what we find a client. Only half is due at the signing of the docs, the other half as they get the checks. And it says in our contract that we stand behind our work 100%. There's no other hidden fees. If the IRS sends a letter or asks any questions, we'll quantify our work 100%. We'll answer everything and anything for them. We're in this all the way through with them. And we don't also, I hit on it earlier, 98% of my clients all get more than what we ask for. If we ask for $100,000, you're going to get about 106, 107 with interest. We don't charge for the interest. We only charge for our work.
Okay, that's super helpful. I think there's a lot of clarity there.
Yeah.
How does, I think there could be some concern sometimes about the communication, how the communication works with the client, and kind of the handoff of client to how that works with you guys too.
Yeah.
Can you touch on that?
Yeah. So the initial intro, a CPA can be on with me on that call. They can be on it all the way through the process. Once the client signs that NDA though, then we take that NDA very serious. Doesn't mean I can't tell you another thing after that. You just have to ask the client, which it's your client. They're not going to say, no, I don't want you to know anything about this, but I just have to have it in writing that they say, I don't mind talking with Donna about this, or I don't mind including Donna on the next phone call or Zoom that we do to go over what's next. If they give the blessing, you're in it all the way through. And I don't see why. I've never had a client say no, but they have to say yes. And then I can share information all the way through.
Gotcha. Okay. How can people best get in touch with you? Because I'm sure, Steve, you can help if someone's not sure if if a business meets the 10 and 2 qualification, maybe they can. I mean, I know that's pretty straightforward, but you know, you might be able to give a little more clarity if someone has some questions or something around that. What's the best way for people in here to get in touch with you?
They can either go through you. You can send them my email address.
Sure.
That way you know that they're coming over to me too as well, because I think it's always helpful for you to know, the success of doing these and having results of helping out your clients. But yeah, either a phone call or an email is always, the easiest way. And then I don't mind getting on a call and answering some questions. I think it's always best if you think about 2 or 3 clients that you have that might be good candidates. Let's get on a call and let's talk about them, and one, I can go over it and kind of give you an idea of why that client is a good. And it's like, the more you start hearing about the R&D, the more you start really understanding. It's like anything. The more you talk about it, read it, say it, hear it, it starts to really retain in your mind about who would be a good candidate and who wouldn't, and why, what is the reasons why.
Cool. Okay. So I'll if you guys want to get in touch with Steve, you can definitely reach out to me directly and I can get you in touch with him. And also we'll get contact information on here too. So is there any questions because I don't see any more in the chat now. Are there any other common ones that we might have missed in the questions that we asked? We talked about cost. We talked about audit risk and the thoughts there. And I think the other thing is timing, which I don't think we touched on so much.
Yeah, timing. So timing for when we get the taxes to do the initial analysis is about 2 weeks. When we get the contract that they want us to do the work to the time that we do a deep dive on all 3 years is about another week to 2 weeks. It depends on how busy the office is. It can fluctuate depending on how many files are in the hopper. But what everybody wants to know is, when you mail them out, when am I going to get my check? And I'm sure everybody on this call is aware, during COVID, the IRS was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. They shut down for 5 months. They had 52 million envelopes sitting waiting for them when they came back to work. The chief operating officer of the IRS said in a letter about 2 months ago that they're hoping by the end of this year to be caught up. And I just had a construction company in Pennsylvania get 2 years checks after 8 weeks, which is pre-pandemic timeline.
Yeah.
Fast, super fast.
I
During
guess,
COVID, they were waiting over a year. They were
Yeah.
waiting over a year. It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal.
maybe 16,000 new people at some level might help that a little bit. I don't know, but
Yeah, yeah.
maybe. We did get a question that came in real quick, I think is relevant. So John, I might have missed this part too, but can you do a listing of the type of businesses that this can be done for?
Yeah, architects, engineers, general contractors, manufacturers, telecommunications, auto mechanics, body shops, almost anything that isn't retail or restaurants. That isn't retail or restaurants. Okay.
All right.
I helped out a lot of HVACs, landscapers, gardeners not. Gardeners not. Landscapers, yes. Somebody that's actually installing systems, doing irrigation, creative elements like that. A guy that's just coming and mowing the lawn every week and charging $50 a week is not. Okay. So there's things to it, but you have to kind of think about, you just think about, is somebody doing something that every job that they get is different and unique than the last one, and that they have to do some sort of research on or have technical possibilities to. Those are the questions you ask, and you'll typically see who's a good candidate. I can also send Charlie over. I have a brochure that on the 3rd page has a long list of qualifying clients, and if you want to blast it out, Charlie, you could.
Yeah, I can put that down in the comments below once I get
Did I
that.
send that already to you?
Actually, I believe I have it. So I just need this. I can just add it in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
John says, I actually do tax. Is that right, John? I actually do tax preparers. Can they qualify as well? Are you preparing?
They so that's a tricky question. And we've had, there's a few people that we won't work with. One are lawyers. Lawyers are great R&D credit qualifying companies. But we had a long history of lawyers paying us our first half fee. And then when they got their second checks, they went, we're not paying you. You can send us to court. We'll represent ourselves. You'll have to get a lawyer, and it'll cost you more in lawyers' fees than it will if you just let me go away. We don't do lawyers anymore. A couple of bad apples made it really bad.
Okay.
Same with CPAs. Unfortunately, when you look at the calculations of the R&D, if you don't know what you're looking at and you don't know how they're coming up with the formula that the IRS has for the R&D, it even says on the IRS website, if you plan on taking advantage of the R&D, we highly suggest you use a specialist to do it. I've had numerous calls with CPAs that go, your calculations aren't right. I saw your amendments. They don't add up. They're wrong. You need to correct them or the IRS is going to get upset. And I always have to reassure them. I go, we're not wrong. You just don't know what you're looking at, with all due respect. So it ends up costing us more time to explain to a CPA, how did we do this? Because it becomes a shiny new object. So I know I'm going on a long explanation of why not, but the company has just made the decision to not work with CPA firms on doing their own R&D.
Okay.
Because it just ends up opening up a Pandora's box of, I want to know how you did this. How did you do this? It doesn't make sense. I don't think it's right. We're just not in the business of teaching people how we do our job.
Yeah. And I know those studies can be pretty intensive in terms of with the reason, the files and the support that goes into I guess the workload that can go into that.
The formula makes no sense. Straight up makes no sense. The employees, it's the amount of employees is the igniter for the R&D, right? It's how much time did you spend percentage wise on R&D activities throughout the year, which is a guesstimate that you can make. And the IRS will take an estimated amount of time. If you do under 50 million revenue a year, they'll accept a guesstimated amount of time. So we're not breaking any law by guessing. They know we don't have the bandwidth to clock in and out. It's also how much tax did you pay? And then it's also expenditures. There's so many moving parts to try to calculate this out. That's why we have a proprietary software that does the majority of the work, but we do have to ask the questions and we do have to look and quantify their activities before we put them into the software.
Okay. I don't know if there's anything else that we want to touch on. I don't see any other questions here. Steve, is there anything else that you want to add before we jump off?
You guys have all asked some really good questions, some really great questions. I think I would love to help out more people like Charlie and I already have with the first batch of people that we talked to. They've had tremendous success and are very happy and sending more clients over, over my way. I think a couple of them beta tested with a couple of clients that they went, let's see what happens with Joe, and Joe went really well, and now we're helping out larger clients. So yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, cool, Steve, and I appreciate you coming on here. I know this is a big area that doesn't get talked about enough, and so I'm glad that you're you're here. You're educating us. So thank you for that, and definitely reach out to Steve or reach out to me, and I can connect you with Steve if you guys have any questions or might have some potential fits for this. Okay.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate the time as well.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Steve. Thank you so much. And we'll do this again soon. All right, man.
Awesome. Take care.
All right.